Before the weekend, Matt Painter did an appearance on 107.5 The Fan, a radio show, and gave some insights into where Purdue's offseason plan could be headed. We spent all of last summer nitpicking and dissecting and criticizing Painter for things that happened in the offseason. And I think some of what we said we look foolish for in hindsight. A lot of what we said ended up playing out pretty true. I think this Purdue team was a couple pieces short of being a national championship Final Four contender. And Paint seems to maybe agree with us. Here's a quote. Shout out to Dustin Shute, who has this article for the SI, Purdue, SI.com. Here's the quote from Painter. The one thing we want to be top shelf about is being honest and trying to help them. But you're not going to appease everybody. Like right now, we have one guy leaving. So if they want to improve, and if they want to improve their situation, they're going to have to battle and beat the people that they've been competing against this year, probably. We're going to get some guys here. We're going to get some guys here in the spring because you have to be aggressive. Two things I would pick out of that we need to, I guess, define what he means by. Number one, we have one guy leaving. Immediately into if you want to improve their situation, you got to compete. But we have one guy leaving. And then number two, we're going to get some guys here. We're going to get some guys here in the spring. You have to be aggressive. Let's start with the first quote. Is one guy leaving just Caleb first?
I think so.
Because there's a way to interpret this of like, there's one guy who could be back that's leaving that they know about. Or it's just there's one guy graduating and Caleb first.
I think it's Caleb first because I don't know. To me, I don't think Paint would acknowledge like if there was like let's say I'm just throwing out names. Don't bite my head off here. If it was like a Colvin or like a Heidi or somebody like that, I don't think he would come out and say that. I think he's referring to first.
And more importantly, I don't think he'd be playing them right now.
Yeah.
Right? They're still in the rotation, giving you honestly really good minutes in the last week.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I agree. I think it's got to mean Caleb first. The second half of this is the interesting part, though. We're going to get some guys here. We're going to get some guys here in the spring because you have to. You have to be aggressive. Isn't that a far cry from what Painter was preaching last offseason? You have to get some guys here. Does that mean portal guys?
I love this energy. I love this energy. I think given after this season, this is the approach that needs to be taken. If I'm a Purdue fan, this would have me at almost half the full Boilermaker at the thought of this. This is what you need.
Right. So I mean, Painter's a smart guy. I feel like in his own way, this is sort of him not admitting fault, but just realizing, hey, our team isn't where we needed to be without bringing some guys in.
Hmm
That's what we need to do. And be curious if somebody asked him, should you have done that this year in hindsight, what would you say? But I don't know. You know what I mean?
Aren't you a little surprised too that he actually answered it like this?
The timing's interesting, right?
Because just like straight up, you and I have been talking about, Big Ten and Purdue specific stuff a lot. And I'm not saying we know how Painter operates, but like I feel like we have a good pulse on how he usually approaches things. And I might be wrong on this, very well could be, but it is very interesting that even though he was asked about his approach to the transfer portal situation during the offseason, that he like really came out and acknowledged it and said that he is going to make this instead of maybe taking the approach that I thought Paint would take would be like, well, you know what? That we'll worry about that when we get there. We got a lot of season to play. The guys that are here are here. I'm not really thinking about the offseason right now. I'm focused on this team and like where they could go.
Yeah. Yeah, look, we've talked about in the past, Painter hasn't been completely averse to upgrading his roster via the portal in the past, right? We've seen him like I don't want to say push guys out, but like he had a Brandon Newman backcourt at one point, and then all of a sudden he didn't because he wasn't happy with where that was headed, and he brought other guys in. Like which is why I think last summer was so surprising to me is he just seems so antagonistic to the concept Whereas, like, I believe he's not Tom Izzo level of like F the portal, it's bad for the game. Painter just believes in his development skills. And you can do both. That's always been our thing, right? You can still be the great high school talent developer that Painter is, and also like bolster your roster out a little bit. You don't have to choose one or the other. And I think Paint seems to be heading there this offseason, which is good. It's also a critical offseason for a variety of reasons. There's another video on the channel we're going to put up today that there's rumors of specific names that might be open to fielding offers, and there's some big ones. And Purdue has a couple guys that could be big ones if they are open to that. I'm not saying they are or are not. I expect everyone that we think is going to return to Purdue next year. But you've got to nail this, and you've got to at least demonstrate, especially to the vets, to Braden Smith and TKR, that you're going all in on next season, and you're not prioritizing things that don't happen while they're still in uniform anymore. I think Payne's going to do that. His comments seem to speak to the fact that he will do that. But you're right. It's refreshing and a little interesting that he's saying it right now. Is this kind of Painter's version of like the Bill Self thing?
Which Bill Self thing?
Well, the last couple years, Bill
Oh,
Self,
like I hate my roster type thing.
not I hate my roster, but like Bill Self gets to a point at the end of the year where like the writing's on the wall, the team's not vibing, they're not playing well, and Bill Self's just been very blunt of like, I can't wait for next year. Like this is not going well. I can't wait. Paraphrasing Paint here for his team that let me make sure I have this correct. Has lost 6 of their last 9 games. Isn't this Paint kind of, yeah, there's still a lot to play for, but I'll talk next year. Like, it's a little surprising to me to see a team that was in the national title game last year with the best duo in college basketball, like, kind of speaking on, like, yeah, we're going to change our roster. And let's talk about it now before the NCAA tournament begins. Like, that's not something I would have thought with this prompt, Painter would just be like, we'll get there when we get there. We have NCAA tournament games to win. And that's not what he did. He gave a long, honest, candid answer about how they're going to change their roster because this roster isn't good enough. That's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. Now I'm looking more deeply into this because of something you mentioned with like letting guys know that are on the team that he's going to improve the roster. Because that would be a really good angle. Because I'm not like you don't want to lose guys you have on the team if they don't think you're going to approach a situation a certain way. And this is a clear indication that, if Paint's speaking to Braden Smith and TKR and throw Fletch in there too. He's like, I realize I kind of gave y'all a little, I didn't give y'all as much to work with this year as maybe I should. I didn't maximize this team. And the Jacobson injury hurt, but even with that, I didn't maximize what I have in y'all. And maybe this is a clear message that he's not going to let that happen again.
Yeah, right. I like it in
Which if
that
you're
sense.
those guys, you feel good, and you maybe block out the noise because listen, Purdue fans are in for a long summer, whether they want to be in for it or not, because people are going to try to steal Braden away. It's going to happen. They are going to try. I don't think they're going to do it, but they're going to try. So you need to make sure that you're solid in it. You make sure that you put the best pieces around him because there are going to you have no control over that. People are going to try. That's the state of college basketball. So this is a clear message from Paint that we ain't going like that.
Right. Yeah, and it's a clear message from Paint like we're going to compete,
Mhm.
which I like. That this is we essentially wanted Paint to say these exact words and back them up with action last summer. And he didn't, and we were frustrated and called him out, and now he's giving us what we want. It does feel a year late, and it does feel like the timing is the interesting part, doing this while a postseason run's about to begin. But it's what I wanted to hear. I think it's what Purdue fans should want to hear. So credit to Paint for that. I want to leave you with the last quote from Paint, which I found the spiciest out of all of this. Quote, if you think you can walk somewhere and get a better education than Purdue and get a better experience than Mackey Arena 20 times per year and go to the tournament 9 straight years and win the Big Ten 4 times in the last 9 years and go to a Final Four, God bless you, man. Then leave. Leave. Get more money. Get a better education. Get a better experience. But I doubt you're going to check those boxes. Who's he talking to when he says that?
Hmm. Talk about former players, maybe, or former recruits.
I think he's talking to current players.
Oh, I don't know. Who's he talking to?
I mean, it could apply to everybody in theory, but ain't there only one guy on this team that would be thinking about walking and getting a better experience and matching or exceeding the heights that Paint just laid out here?
Brady?
I mean, yeah, I think this is a direct Painter on record public statement to Braden. And if you want to include Heidi and Colvin, sure. But he's basically like publicly, I think, doing what he did with Cannon Catchings this summer, right? I'm
Hmm.
sure these are the exact words that Painter told Cannon Catchings on the phone this summer. Hey, Cannon, if you think you can go somewhere else, do better than Purdue, go do it, my friend. I'm not going to shake ass for you. And then Cannon said, okay, I'm going to go to Provo. That works. Get my bag. I think that this is essentially Paint's stance to players. Like, if you want money, if you think that shit's going to be a better experience for you than what we have to offer as a championship program, good luck. But right now, the reality is it's Colvin and Heidi who might make that decision. Maybe Will Berg, but I don't think anyone cares on that.
And
And then it's
also,
your star point guard that we know is being tampered with by a bunch of programs.
also be careful with that. Be very careful with that. That's all I got. Just be careful with that pitch. It is Mackey's amazing. Purdue has been a very high level Big Ten championship, nationally relevant level program. Let's relax. It's not you know, the end all be all destination as he's making it sound.
Hypothetically, if there was a preseason national player of the year, this is all hypothetical. If there was a Big Ten player of the year, preseason national player of the year point guard who maybe had members of his immediate family and or camp that were rumored to be encouraging him to seek out other options. I don't know if I was the head coach of that player that I would ever utter the words on public record. God bless you, man. Then leave. Leave. Get more money. I don't know that I would ever utter those words, even if I'm doing it in a sarcastic. Like, don't bluff a bluffing match with Braden Smith. Please, Matt Painter. Don't do that. Make it abundantly clear that you'll do anything to make
Yeah,
Braden
no,
happy and
no,
keep him.
no. Kiss feet. We're not over here having a Boilermaker dick swinging contest. All right. No, 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 no. We do not play. Don't play with your food. Don't play with your Braden.
End of story.
End of story.
And I say that as someone, I beg that Braden Smith return to Purdue and set all the records that he should next year. That is how I want to see this end.
Yeah, I do too. Also,
You're different than me.
yeah, no, because this is where I'm coming from. Uh, I don't want him doing what he does to my team like 2 times. Like it'd be nice not to have to deal with that.
I would miss watching it.
I would miss. I mean, yeah, I would too. But also, like that little man, he's been hell. He's been giving our teams hell for 3 years.
He has been just, yeah. I just let's not do the bluff game. That's where I'm at. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting offseason for Purdue, man. But like I said, credit to Painter for taking the approach we wanted him to take last summer. It appears should be interesting.